Let's talk about something that most people overlook, and yet it's the single most important factor in creating a life of real wealth: time. You see, I've watched people chase money for decades, and the ones who truly succeed, the ones who seem to move ahead effortlessly, share one quality above all others: they value their time more than money. Now, at first that might sound strange. How can time be more valuable than money, you might ask? But let me share something I've learned from my own journey. Money comes and goes. It can be earned, lost, spent, and earned again. But time is finite. Every minute that passes is gone forever. No one can borrow it. No one can earn it back. And that realization, when it really sinks in, changes everything about how you approach your life and your wealth. Early in my career, I was working a job that consumed every waking hour. I thought I was doing the right thing by grinding, by saving every dollar I could, but I wasn't thinking about time. I wasn't asking myself whether the hours I spent were moving me toward my dreams or just keeping me busy. Then I realized that the people I admired most, those who were wealthy, not just in money but in freedom, didn't waste hours on trivial matters. They invested their time just like they invested money. Every conversation, every task, every decision was measured against a standard. Does this bring me closer to my vision or take me further away? That question became my compass. Here's what I started doing. I began tracking every minute of my day just like I would track money. I wrote down where my hours went, how long I spent on work, on commuting, on entertainment. And you know what I discovered? I was spending countless hours on tasks that didn't move me forward at all. Hours lost in meetings that led nowhere, projects that drained energy but produced little, distractions that gave momentary pleasure but no progress. The moment I saw it on paper, it became impossible to ignore. I realized that an hour wasted is not just time gone, it's potential wealth evaporated. From that day on, I treated my hours as investments. I started delegating tasks that didn't require my skill, automating repetitive work, and saying no to commitments that didn't align with my vision. I began to question my choices constantly. Every hour I asked myself, is this moving me closer to my goals, or is it taking me away? Simple as it sounds, it's a habit that compounds over time. If you waste an hour, you've lost part of your fortune, part of your freedom, part of the life you could have built. If you invest it wisely, you're creating momentum, building your future, and multiplying your wealth in ways dollars alone cannot. Time, once lost, can never be replaced. Money can be earned, spent, and regained, but an hour gone is gone forever. Value it, protect it, and use it as deliberately as you would use a $100 bill. Guard it fiercely, spend it intentionally, and watch how the quality of your life and your wealth transforms. Every moment matters. Treat it that way. Let me share something that has been the cornerstone of every life I've ever seen flourish. Wealth begins in the mind long before it ever appears in your bank account. Too many people believe that money alone will solve their problems, that earning more will automatically make life better. I've seen it countless times. Folks land a better paying job, get a raise, or even win a small fortune, and within months, they're back in the same struggles. Why? Because money doesn't make you rich, thinking does. Wealth is a reflection of your mindset. It's how you perceive opportunities, how you process setbacks, and how you choose to act on what you see. It begins in the mind with the choices you make internally, the beliefs you hold, and the principles you follow. I remember a time early in my career when I had very little in the way of money. I was working multiple jobs, barely making ends meet, and yet I began studying the minds of those who had achieved wealth. I noticed a profound difference between the thinking of the average person and the thinking of the wealthy. The 97% seemed to wait for luck, they hoped for a miracle, they reacted to circumstances. The 3% thought differently, they observed cause and effect, they understood that certain actions led to certain results, and they shaped their decisions accordingly. I realized that if I wanted to change my circumstances, I first had to change the way I thought. I had to condition my mind toward possibility, toward abundance, and away from fear and limitation. From that point on, I made a simple daily commitment. Each morning, I would affirm my potential, my purpose, and my ability to create value. I didn't just say, I hope things will get better. I said, I will find a way, I will make progress, I will act with intention today. That shift in language, from hope to certainty, changed everything. Hope is passive, will is active. When you say, I will, you are taking ownership of your future. You are acknowledging that your results are a product of your thinking, your decisions, and your actions. I also dedicated time every day to study the minds of wealthy thinkers, not to mimic them blindly, but to observe the logic, the patterns, and the mindset that drove their results. I noticed that their thinking was deliberate, disciplined, and long-term. They didn't chase short-term thrills or quick wins. They analyzed, anticipated, and executed. And as I began to emulate their thought processes, my own decisions began to align with abundance rather than scarcity. I began to see opportunities where others saw obstacles. I began to act decisively rather than react fearfully. The truth is, your wallet cannot grow faster than your mind. You must first believe in abundance, first commit to growth, first discipline your thoughts, and only then will your actions produce tangible results. Money flows naturally to those who cultivate the right mental habits, the mindset of possibility, and the refusal to let fear dictate their choices. If you want to build wealth, start with your thoughts, feed them with clarity, purpose, and certainty. Condition your mind daily, because what you think is what you become, and what you become is what your life and your bank account will reflect. Change your mind, and your life will follow. Let's talk about a truth that separates those who struggle financially from those who flourish. The rich think long-term, and the average person thinks paycheck to paycheck. Most people live from one payday to the next, measuring life in weeks, months, and fleeting comforts. They chase the immediate, the short-term, and the visible reward. I've seen it in countless lives. Folks work hard all week, and Friday evening becomes the reward. Dinner out, a small indulgence, a weekend escape. There's nothing inherently wrong with enjoying life, but when that becomes the standard measure of effort and reward, long-term progress suffers. The wealthy, on the other hand, operate on a different timeline. They think in years, decades, even generations. They work not just for the next month or the next raise, but for a future that doesn't yet exist, building a foundation that compounds over time. I remember when I first started my journey. I was young, ambitious, and broke, just like many of you might have felt. I wanted results, but I quickly learned that overnight success is a myth. One of the first lessons I absorbed was to design a vision that outlasted my current circumstances. I didn't just focus on what I could earn this week or this month. I asked myself, where do I want to be 10 years from now? I began writing down my 10-year vision, not as a dream, but as a blueprint. It was specific, the kind of life I wanted, the knowledge I needed to gain, the habits I wanted to cultivate, the assets I wanted to build. By seeing the long-term picture, I began to measure every short-term choice against that vision. Once the 10-year vision was clear, I broke it down into yearly goals, then into daily habits. It wasn't overwhelming because I focused on what I could do today to move the needle for tomorrow. I realized that small actions, repeated consistently, produce extraordinary results over time. One day, I might invest a few dollars in a book that taught me a new skill. Another day, I might dedicate an hour to planning a side venture. These seemingly modest steps were bricks, and each one contributed to the house I was building for my future. The rich understand that delaying one comfort today creates freedom tomorrow. Skipping a weekend splurge, postponing a purchase, or investing in learning instead of indulgence may seem like sacrifice. But in reality, it is a strategic choice that compounds with time. Every small decision aligned with your vision creates leverage. I've seen people refuse short-term gratification to acquire knowledge, build relationships, or accumulate assets. Years later, that discipline pays dividends far beyond anything immediate pleasure could provide. Remember, wealth is a marathon, not a sprint. The key is to design a life vision that stretches beyond your current paycheck. Align your daily actions with that vision and embrace the discipline to delay gratification. Each moment you choose the long term over the short term, you are planting seeds that will grow into freedom, opportunity, and security. Think in decades, act in days, and the life you want will arrive. Let's reflect on a principle that often distinguishes those who remain average from those who thrive. The wealthy don't just maintain, they multiply. Too many people believe that earning a little more or holding on to what they already have is the pinnacle of financial achievement. They think if I keep my head down and protect what I've earned, I'll be safe. But safety isn't growth. Wealth is not a static number. It's a living, expanding force. I've learned over the years that the moment you focus solely on maintenance, your progress slows, and eventually, life's inflation, competition, and unforeseen expenses erode what you thought was secure. The key is not protection, it's expansion. Early in my journey, I saw this vividly. I knew people who were diligent savers. They worked tirelessly, tucked away every penny, and celebrated their modest nest egg. Yet, when they retired, they barely had enough to sustain the lifestyle they wanted. I realized that while saving is necessary, it alone does not produce the life of abundance. True wealth comes from multiplying what you have, creating systems, acquiring assets, and building momentum that works even when you're not actively working. This means thinking beyond your paycheck, beyond mere accumulation, and imagining how each dollar, each skill, each connection can grow exponentially. The first step is to reinvest a portion of every profit. Whenever you earn, don't be satisfied with simply spending or hoarding. Allocate part of it back into opportunities that expand your resources. For example, if you complete a consulting job or earn a bonus, invest part of it into a course that enhances your expertise or into tools that streamline your work. When I started reinvesting in my own knowledge, every dollar spent on learning came back to me multiplied, either through higher earnings, new ideas, or more efficient systems. The principle applies equally to money, knowledge, and people. Every asset can grow if you feed it with intention. Compounding is the silent engine of wealth. I built small businesses, invested in assets, and cultivated relationships. Each time I nurtured these areas, they didn't just maintain, they multiplied. A single client could lead to referrals. A single book could inspire multiple income streams. A single skill could create countless opportunities. This is the difference between thinking in addition, I'll just earn a little more, and thinking in multiplication, how can I make this one thing work 10 times harder for me? A practical habit I recommend is reviewing your progress monthly and asking yourself, which one area can I 10x? Maybe it's your knowledge, your investment, or a relationship. Focus on growth relentlessly. Multiply your skills, your assets, your impact. The rich understand that wealth is not measured by what sits idle in a bank account. It is measured by what grows while you sleep, what spreads through influence, and what compounds through time. Think multiplication, not addition. Build systems, reinvest wisely, and watch your life expand in ways that mere preservation could never achieve. Growth is not accidental, it is intentional. Let me share something I've observed countless times over the years. Success is rarely flashy, and it's rarely dramatic. It hides in the quiet, repetitive acts that most people dismiss as boring. The average person is constantly chasing excitement, looking for the next big opportunity, the next shiny idea, the next shortcut that promises instant results. They want fireworks, not bricks. But wealth, influence, and personal mastery are not built in a moment of inspiration. They are built day by day, hour by hour, through disciplined repetition. I've learned that the secret of the wealthy is not doing extraordinary things occasionally, but doing ordinary things extraordinarily well, consistently. When I was starting out, I didn't have a large income or special advantages. I had books, notes, a small desk, and a willingness to do the same small tasks over and over. Every morning I read, every evening I reflected, every opportunity I came across I dissected and acted upon systematically. People around me thought it tedious. They asked, "Why do you spend so much time on such small things?" But those small things, the daily habits, the careful tracking of actions, the steady cultivation of knowledge, were the bricks building my foundation. Consistency compounds just like money in a bank account. A single act done once may seem insignificant, but repeated day after day, it grows into a result that cannot be ignored. One of the most practical tools I've used is a daily checklist of key habits. Every day I write down what I need to do, from reading and writing to making calls and following up. Each evening, I review the list and mark what I've accomplished. At first, it feels routine, almost monotonous. But over months and years, the momentum created by small, consistent wins is astonishing. Those tiny victories, those repeated actions, accumulate into skills, opportunities, and confidence that most people never achieve because they chase the next big thrill instead of embracing the process. Boredom is often a sign that you're doing something that works. It's a sign that you're mastering the fundamentals. When you feel the mind wandering or the task feeling dull, remind yourself that mastery is rarely exciting in the moment. Planting seeds, watering them, tending to your garden. These are not glamorous actions, but when repeated, they yield harvests that outshine any momentary spark of excitement. I've seen countless people give up at the first sign of tedium, only to wonder later why their results never matched their dreams. The truth is, greatness is hidden in the routine others avoid. So fall in love with repetition, cherish consistency, track the small wins because they create momentum. And when it feels boring, remember, it's working. Mastery is quiet. Wealth is quiet. Character is quiet. Your results will speak louder than the noise that surrounds you, but only if you commit day after day to doing what others won't. I've learned one of the most powerful truths in life. You cannot achieve greatness alone. You might be brilliant, disciplined, and hardworking, but if you isolate yourself, your reach and perspective remain limited. The wealthy understand this deeply. They don't just accumulate money, they build networks. They surround themselves with people who expand their thinking, challenge their assumptions, and opened doors they never knew existed. Success grows exponentially when you tap into the energy, wisdom, and opportunities of others, because ideas multiply when shared. I remember early in my career, I spent a lot of time grinding alone, thinking hard work alone would carry me. I learned fast that effort without connection is like planting seeds in dry soil. Then I began seeking out mentors, attending meetings, joining groups where people talked ideas, not complaints. One mentor asked me a simple question that changed my perspective. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? That question forced me to look honestly at my environment. I realized that many around me talked excuses, not solutions. They were smart, kind people, but their conversations didn't stretch my mind or expand my opportunities. That was when I committed to consciously spend more time with people wealthier, wiser, and more disciplined than myself. Building networks isn't about convenience or collecting business cards. It's about value and reciprocity. Every meaningful connection requires giving before receiving. When I started offering my help, my insight, or even my energy to others without expecting immediate returns, doors began to open. I remember helping a colleague with a small project, simply to see if I could contribute. Months later, that relationship turned into an opportunity that significantly accelerated my growth. Networks grow through contribution, not convenience. When you help others elevate themselves, they naturally elevate you in return. It's also essential to join communities that focus on growth and business. Surrounding yourself with people who share your hunger, your vision, and your standards shifts your mindset. Conversations with these individuals spark ideas, reveal strategies, and provide accountability. I've often seen people plateau not because they lack talent, but because their circle is too small, too comfortable, too stagnant. The moment they enter a room where ambition, knowledge, and experience are abundant, their thinking expands and their possibilities multiply. So, invest in relationships with intention. Seek out those who challenge you, teach you, and inspire you to act. Offer value first, listen deeply, and engage sincerely. Remember, wealth is not just numbers in a bank account. It's the quality of the connections you cultivate. Every door that opens, every idea you adopt, every insight you gain compounds far beyond what you could accomplish in isolation. Surround yourself with people who stretch your thinking, and watch as both your influence and opportunities grow beyond what you imagine. Let me tell you something that most people never fully grasp. Money is a tool, not a trophy. Too many spend their lives chasing applause, flashing possessions, or impressing others, thinking that wealth is measured by the size of their car, the brand of their watch, or the grandeur of their home. That is a dangerous trap. True financial freedom doesn't come from appearances, it comes from control. Wealth is the ability to make choices, to have options, to wake up each morning knowing you are in command of your life. And the secret is simple. You must make money your servant, not your master. Early in my journey, I remember sitting at a small desk, bills piled high, and realizing that every dollar I had seemed to rule me. I was chasing things I thought would make me look successful, but in reality, they chained me to stress, debt, and endless work. That was the moment I made a decision. I would never let money dictate my life again. I would learn to use it as a tool to create freedom. From that point on, every dollar earned had a purpose. Some to live on, some to grow through investments, some to educate myself, and some to plant seeds for the future. Before every purchase, I began asking a simple, clarifying question. Will this buy freedom or just applause? That question changed everything. When I paused before buying a new gadget or a flashy item, I started to see the cost of immediate satisfaction versus the long-term impact on my future. Many people never ask this question. They live in a cycle of spending to impress, to keep up with neighbors or colleagues, and in doing so, they lose the very freedom money could have provided. It's not the amount of money you make, it's how you direct it. The rich understand that assets, not luxuries, are the foundation of true wealth. A well-chosen investment, a growing business, or knowledge that compounds over time is far more valuable than anything that can be displayed. I learned early that putting money into assets creates options. Options mean freedom. Options mean the ability to act rather than react. Options mean that when opportunity knocks, you are ready. Possessions, on the other hand, create obligations and often drain energy rather than expand it. And this is key. Measure your wealth not by what you show, but by what choices you have. Can you take time off without worry? Can you pivot careers without panic? Can you help others or seize a new opportunity without fear? That is real richness. I've seen people with large homes and expensive cars living in constant stress because they had no options, no freedom. Meanwhile, someone with modest possessions but wisely managed assets could sleep peacefully, knowing their money worked for them and that life was theirs to design. So, detach emotion from money. Treat it as a tool to create freedom, growth, and opportunity. Let it serve you, not the other way around. Every dollar directed wisely builds options. Every dollar spent chasing applause buys nothing but a fleeting sense of approval. Focus on building your future, your freedom, and your capacity to choose, and you will discover the true power that money can offer. Let me share something that most people overlook. The richest investment you will ever make isn't in stocks, real estate, or businesses. It's in yourself. Your mind, your skills, your capacity to think, to innovate, to solve problems, that is the vehicle through which wealth flows. I've learned over the years that the size of your portfolio is rarely bigger than the size of your mind. When I first started, I had very little money, but I had a mind eager to learn. Every book I read, every seminar I attended, every conversation I had with someone wiser than me was like planting seeds in fertile soil. I knew that if I nourished my thinking, the financial harvest would follow. Early on, I made a commitment that changed everything. No matter how tight the budget, I would dedicate a portion of my income to learning. 5% may not sound like much, but when you consistently invest in your knowledge, the returns compound in ways money alone never can. I spent hours reading books, listening to tapes, and studying the lives of people who had walked the path I wanted to walk. Every lesson learned, every principle absorbed became a tool I could apply immediately to my own life. That investment in myself paid far greater dividends than anything I could have earned by chasing short-term gains. The key is not occasional learning, but consistent, deliberate growth. I made it a habit to spend at least 1 hour a day focused purely on education, reading a book, listening to a lecture, or analyzing a successful strategy. Over time, that hour became more valuable than any overtime I could have worked. I began to see that the mind works like money in the bank. The compound interest is real. Skills mastered, ideas understood, and wisdom applied all multiplied my opportunities and my earning potential.